Your parents probably told you the same thing mine did. Work hard, pick a stable career, and bet on the winners. For the last 30 years, if you were a country, that meant one thing. You bet on China. China was the factory of the world, the cheapest supplier, the biggest customer, the growth story nobody could afford to miss. Every major economy quietly built their future on the back of Chinese demand, Chinese manufacturing, and Chinese money. But today, that bet is looking less like a safe investment and more like a trap. And no country feels that trap closing faster than South Korea. Because here's what most people don't realize. South Korea just made a $200 billion decision to walk away from its biggest customer. A customer that still buys roughly a quarter of everything they export. And they're betting that entire fortune on something that might not even work. So in this video, we're going to break down why South Korea is pulling the plug on China, where that $200 billion is actually going, and whether this gamble is about to pay off or blow up in their face. Let's get started. Section 1. The historical context. When Korea sold its soul to China. To understand how big this bet is, you have to understand how deep the old one went. Rewind to the early 2000s. China had just joined the World Trade Organization. Factories were exploding across its coastline, and they needed one thing above everything else. Semiconductors, displays, steel, petrochemicals, car parts. Basically, everything South Korea was already really good at making. So Korea did what any smart economy would do. It plugged itself straight into the Chinese growth machine. By 2018, China was buying more than 26% of all South Korean exports. Samsung built massive memory chip plants in Xi'an. Hyundai opened 5 factories in China. LG poured billions into Chinese displays. Korean cosmetics, Korean dramas, Korean everything became a Chinese obsession. For 20 years, this was the smartest trade on earth. Korea got rich. China got the components it needed to dominate global manufacturing. Everybody wins. Then the shift happened. And it happened on 2 fronts at once. First, China stopped being a customer and started being a competitor. Chinese companies like BYD, CATL, BOE and SMIE didn't just catch up. In some industries, they pulled ahead. Chinese electric vehicles now outsell Hyundai in China by a massive margin. Chinese displays crushed LG's profit margins. Chinese memory chip makers are closing the gap on Samsung faster than anyone predicted. Second, the geopolitics turned toxic. The United States started pressuring allies to choose sides on advanced chips. China retaliated with rare earth restrictions, and Korea found itself stuck in the middle, getting squeezed by both superpowers. Here's the key statistic that tells the whole story. In 2018, South Korea ran a trade surplus with China of roughly $55 billion. By 2023, that flipped to a deficit of about $18 billion. In just 5 years, Korea's most profitable relationship turned into a losing one. That's the moment the bet had to change. Section 2. The core mechanism. How Korea is rewiring itself. Here's the simplest way to understand what's happening. Imagine your business has one giant customer who used to pay on time, buy everything, and make you rich. Then one day, that customer starts building their own version of your product, pays you less, and tells you who else you're allowed to sell to. What do? You find new customers, fast, and you make sure they need you more than the old one did. That's exactly what South Korea is doing, and the $200 billion figure is the price tag. Step 1. Move the factories. Samsung is pouring over $17 billion into a new chip fab in Taylor, Texas. SK Hynix is building a $3.87 billion advanced packaging plant in Indiana. Hyundai committed $12.6 billion to a massive electric vehicle and battery complex in Georgia. LG is spending billions more on battery plants across Michigan, Ohio, Arizona, and Tennessee. Add up the commitments from Korea's top conglomerates into the United States alone, and you're well past $100 billion. Step 2. Lock in new allies. Korea signed a landmark trilateral security agreement with the United States and Japan at Camp David, something that would have been unthinkable a decade ago given Korea-Japan tensions. Korean chip giants are now deeply integrated into the American CHIPS Act framework, and Korea is quietly building deeper trade ties with Vietnam, India, and Poland as manufacturing alternatives to China. Step 3. Starve the old system. Korean exports of advanced semiconductor equipment to China have been deliberately throttled. Samsung and SK Hynix are slowly winding down their most sophisticated operations inside China, keeping only what they legally can't move. Now here's the counterintuitive part that most people miss. Walking away from China should be economic suicide for an export economy. So why isn't Korea's economy collapsing? Because the world is rearranging itself faster than China can respond. Every chip destined for a data center, every battery going into an American EV, every advanced display in a Western phone is now being routed through a supply chain that deliberately excludes China. And Korea sits right in the middle of that new map. The country isn't losing a customer. It's betting it can become indispensable to the customers replacing China. Section 3. The hidden power. Who's actually writing the check? Here's where it gets interesting. Because a $200 billion bet doesn't come out of nowhere. And it's not really Korea making this decision alone. The shadow player here is the United States government. The CHIPS and Science Act, combined with the Inflation Reduction Act, created something Korean companies literally could not refuse. Move your advanced manufacturing to America, and you get billions in direct subsidies, tax credits, and guaranteed access to the world's most lucrative customer base. Stay in China, and you get cut off from American technology, American software, and American machines. For a company like Samsung, which relies on American chip design tools and equipment, there was no real choice. The direct impact on the viewer, wherever you are, is already showing up. Your next iPhone, your next Tesla, your next refrigerator, your next laptop. The components inside are increasingly being manufactured in Texas, Arizona, Georgia, and Indiana instead of Xi'an, Wuxi, or Dalian. Prices are going up because American labor costs more. But the security of supply is going up too, and governments are quietly subsidizing the difference through your tax dollars. Then there's the domino effect nobody's talking about. If Korea's bet works, Taiwan follows, Japan follows, the Netherlands follows. Every advanced manufacturing economy in Asia and Europe is watching South Korea as the test case. If Samsung can successfully pivot away from China without crashing the Korean economy, it becomes the playbook for everyone else. But if it fails, if Chinese chip makers catch up faster than expected, if American subsidies dry up after an election, if Korean factories in Texas can't match the cost efficiency of Chinese ones, then Korea is left with stranded assets, angry shareholders, and a Chinese market that no longer needs them at all. The domino goes the other way. Every economy that was thinking about decoupling quietly reconsiders, and China's economic gravity pulls the world back into its orbit. Section 4. The reality check and conclusion. So here's the harsh truth. South Korea isn't making a $200 billion bet because it wants to. It's making this bet because it has no choice. The old model, where you could sell to China, manufacture in China, and stay politically neutral, is dead. The new model forces every serious economy to pick a lane. Korea picked the American lane, and the bill is $200 billion and climbing. What can you actually do with this information? Watch where the money flows. When Samsung, Hyundai, and SK Hynix report earnings over the next 2 years, pay attention to margins from their American operations versus their Chinese ones. That number will tell you, long before any headline does, whether this decoupling is actually working or whether the world is about to snap back toward Beijing. Because make no mistake, if this bet pays off, South Korea becomes the indispensable middleman of the 21st century economy. If it doesn't, the country that bet on the wrong superpower spends the next decade paying for it. So here's my question for you. Do you think Korea's gamble is going to pay off, or are they walking into the biggest economic mistake of the decade? Drop your take in the comments. If this breakdown made the picture clearer, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the money, power, and decisions shaping the world economy. I'll see you in the next one.